What is going on, everybody? Welcome to the Gamers for Life podcast, where each and every Saturday we discuss all things games. One of your hosts, Jarrell. With me is my co-host, my right-hand man, my ABXY, Arthur. What is shaking, man?
That's me. Not much. It's hot.
Yes. Good Lord.
Summer's here and it's humid. A lot of people don't picture Southern California, at least by the beach town, being humid.
Yeah.
What it is. It's nothing like the Gulf or like down in Louisiana.
Right.
But yeah, you're gonna sweat.
Yeah, we had to up the ante on the fan, so hopefully it doesn't kick too much into the audio here for the podcast if you're listening to it, or for the YouTube video. But yeah, man, it's kind of crazy. It's like everything feels like 90, even though it's like in the 80s.
And plus I was getting soda and stuff at like the local liquor store where I go to, and there's no ventilation in there.
Shit.
So it's always like 10 degrees hotter. So
oh man, that's a nightmare.
Yeah, so I was like, cool, let me go get some soda, some chips, and a fucking bag of ice, I guess.
Yeah, man.
Oh, fuck that.
Jesus, yeah, just sit in a tub of ice as you're ringing up your customers.
I came home and immediately put my AC to use.
Nice.
Because I still say, because I got the AC back in February, and on face value, it wasn't technically on sale. But like we mentioned, we knew the price was going to go up.
Yeah.
It's already up I think like $100 from what I paid for it.
Oh, damn. So that was a good move when you bought it.
Yeah, and plus since my room's like a Harry Potter closet, it takes like 5 minutes for that thing to kick. It takes like 5 minutes for my room to get cold.
Oh, wow.
And then not to go too much into it, I gave myself a cold a few days ago, even though
that's how hot it is. We're like, fuck it.
Like, I didn't mean to, but like in my little Harry Potter closet of a room, I put my AC on and I fell asleep. Even though the world was hot, I fell asleep with like kind of a blanket on because fuck it, first world privileges. I don't care.
Yeah.
I woke up and like I'm sneezing. I have congestion. I'm like, is it really humid as fuck? And I have a cold. So yeah, it was just one day. I woke up. By the time I woke up the next day, I was on the tail end of it when I gave myself a cold.
Yeah, that's crazy, man.
Yeah, it's weird having a cold when it's hot as fuck.
Yeah, seriously.
Now I'm kind of getting a little hungry because the elote guy is passing by.
Yeah, man. God damn it, elote man, with your beautiful elotes. But if you're watching this here, hi, welcome to the Gamers for Life channel here. Be sure to like and subscribe on our channel. Of course, we release videos every Saturday, then also we chop them up and release them to you that way. So please be sure to like, subscribe, click the notification bell. And also, obviously, for the podcast, you can listen to it as well if you don't want to see our beautiful faces. You can, on the podcast application of your choice, so Spotify, Apple Podcasts, what have you, whatever you want to do, as far as listen to it, we're on all the main stuff there. So be sure to do that. And then, of course, we are on the Twitch as well. If you go to twitch.tv /Gamers for Life pod, P-O-D, and 4 is the number 4, so twitch.tv /Gamers for Life pod. Arthur manages the Twitch on there, does a great job, and been doing a lot of Twitch streams from Sea of Thieves to Knockout City, which we'll dive in because we haven't mentioned Knockout City, and man, oh man.
Surprisingly fun game, but we'll get to it. But yeah, I haven't streamed the past few days because that's a downside with my Harry Potter closet. If I kick on my AC, there's no way. Like all my stream would be is just the video of the game I'm playing, and just the audio of an AC humming. That's all it'll be. Just, and I'm like,
not the best representation for Gamers for Life.
And every now and then you might hear me chime in, say sorry it's so loud, but I'm really fucking comfortable. So yeah, so these past few days, even though I've not been playing games, I haven't been able to stream it again because again with the AC in that small room, even with the gain and the mic pointed the right way, it'll just that's all you would hear. Yeah. All you'd hear is just the AC humming. which wouldn't be a problem for me.
Right. Yeah, whoever watching it's like, oh, it's pretty loud.
What a jackass. What a cold, comfortable in this heat jackass.
They just envy you as you're live streaming.
Motherfucker in his AC. Because I feel like to a point every year someone goes like, I'm gonna buy an AC this year, I'm gonna buy an AC this year, and like 4 years later, when you've had like swamp ass for the 12th time, you're like, okay, now I'm gonna buy an AC.
Yeah, man, I had that situation too. I was like, it was 1 year. I was like, you know what? Like, we're getting an AC for the bedroom as well. We had one for the living room, but someone's in the bedroom, in the other room. Half the time when we're watching whatever we want to watch on separate TVs, and whoever's in the bedroom is just suffering. So I was like, no more. I'm buying an AC, and I'm glad I did. So now we have two. Yeah. But geez, Louise, yeah, it gets bad.
Last year was the end of it for me, because I remember last year I heard the phrase heat wave weekend, like I think the entire fucking month of July.
Oh wow, damn.
And I was like, I'm over this.
As you should. And of course, here on the Gamers for Life podcast, we read the news while you can watch or listen to what you choose by clicking on the time codes within the description of the episode, whether for the YouTube channel or for the podcast application of your choice. I know in general, Spotify does a really good job of those hyperlinks in the description.
With the time codes.
Yeah, for the time codes. So you can click on those, go straight to it. Can't speak on other podcast applications, but I know Spotify does a good job there. But again, YouTube, there's the time codes there.
And based on our last conversation, we might be coming to Google Weather.
Yeah. Oh man, so there's been a lot of news actually here for video games. I know last week we kind of had to do some stretching, and I think we made it through. But there's just ever since like the day after we recorded, there's just a bomb drop of like all types of crazy news. I know the first thing, I didn't put it as a main topic for the show, and we'll go to the start here in a second. But the first thing was like over 100,000 computers got malware because of free games that hackers were putting online. GTA and stuff.
So some people wanted to get games for free, and they went to janky sites, which if that still happens in 2021, what the fuck? Like,
especially with a game like GTA 5, where it's like it doesn't make sense for this to be free. Like I will be honest, I am guilty of this, but it was for freedom fighters. It was before it was free on GOG.
Yeah,
or not free on GOG, but you could buy it on GOG for like $5.
Yeah,
it wasn't anywhere, and it was fucking malware on my computer. I had to delete it and all that stuff, and like. But I would never trust any site that's like, oh, GTA 5, download now, it's free, dude.
Yeah,
I was like, what?
And it was a specific type of malware. So what the news story was is over 220,000 devices had crypto mining malware.
Oh, okay.
For Bitcoin.
Interesting.
Yeah, so it's like, hey, this game's for free. Also, lonely MILFs in your area, come here. Like. With like, it's like, yeah, this is legit. Let me just download GTA from this site. Who knows? I might not be single tomorrow. Fuck it. It's like,
oh my god,
man, Grand Theft Auto and lonely women. No, this site has so much for me. But yeah, and so yeah, so if you still go to jank sites for stuff. Don't.
Yeah, please don't, sir. And speaking of janky sites, well, this isn't a janky site, but I think it's just a fun segue.
It made us feel like it was a janky site. I won't get into it.
Yes.
It was, we were racking our... Before we go into this, we spent like 40 minutes going over this next article of what the fuck is going on.
We haven't done this deep dive of show prep in such a long time.
For one article. For one fucking, like... It was like it was almost like it felt like I was back in high school.
Yeah.
And you read a short story, and then give a summary on it, and both of us read it like 3 times. And we're like, I don't know what the fuck is going on.
And I was glad too. Well, let me just get started.
We'll get into
but yeah, absolutely. I was just like, okay, we're like racking our brains together. We're like, okay, how can we talk about this?
Like, I want to at least mention it. but I don't know how. Yeah. And clearly the person that wrote this didn't know either.
Yeah, man, this really nuts stuff. So we're going to rip the Band-Aid off here. Usually we don't talk about politics here in Gamers for Life. But this was a really interesting article, and it would kind of be ridiculous of us to not mention it. So this is a Kotaku article that recently dropped, and Patricia Fernandez, she's the new editor-in-chief there, so I'll at least give her one of these.
I wouldn't.
Anybody that gets money, gets promoted, that's cool for me. But that's all I do. So, but the interesting thing here on the article, I'm going to first read what Colin Moriarty said here on the Twitter that he posted this June 29th, and then also shout out to Colin Moriarty. I've been listening to you for, God, almost over 10 years, man, since the IGN days, and then a little bit of Colin Last Stand stuff.
Because just for context, it was Colin Moriarty's response, I guess, onto the article to begin with.
Correct. Yeah. Exactly. So I'm going to read this here in quote. He says, he posted the link of the article, and he says, in quote, "This letter is from Kotaku's new EIC, editor-in-chief, is fascinating. The through line that the old way, in quote, of games coverage is dying, has no core fan base anymore, depends entirely on SEO, and likely can't be saved, is shockingly honest. I give them credit for writing this," end quote. And then he posts the link of the article. Now, talking about the article, this was the difficulty that we had, and we summed it up with the main sentence that Arthur helped curate, because the article itself, it goes into a lot of different stuff without even really saying it. Like it's funny, Colin Moriarty is he's like a professional journalist, because he took everything that she said and just put it into that small thing on Twitter.
Which we couldn't do. So, as I mentioned, that this was a high school project to sum up what the new editor-in-chief wrote on Kotaku.
Yeah,
we would have failed that project. In an our defense, again, there's a lot to unfold here. But if I could sum up the article in one sentence, it's like when someone speaks for 10 minutes, and there's a new topic or subject every minute, and after those 10 minutes of talking, nothing was said.
So basically half of your college professors.
Yeah. So,
or you're like, okay, so we're talking about derivatives.
Yeah, but I'll let you continue.
Yeah. Okay. Thank you, sir. So I'm gonna read the title of the article, just because if you guys are curious about checking out the article, you can. But I'm gonna pose with our main question. But the title of the article here is "Hello Kotaku, it's me, your new EIC," and then it says as the subtitle, Patricia Hernandez is back after her previous stint as deputy editor. And basically the main thing to wrap up in the article is there's a lot of shit that she said on this, which I think to me it didn't. She said 17 different things and didn't clarify them.
It was a lot.
It was a pretty annoying op-ed in my opinion, personally. But the main pose here that I think it's kind of wraps everything up, which Colin Moriarty already did: should game journalism and politics be separate? And then obviously we the question was posed because it seems like a lot of game journalists and websites today, they kind of lean towards more what is happening politically, whether they're on the right or the left. And obviously your average video game reader, it seems like they kind of get what's the word for it? It seems like they kind of get it force fed, maybe.
Yeah.
And then just kind of put they don't know anything about it.
Yeah.
And kind of educated when you're not asked to be educated. So I'm going to toss this to you first, because you had some interesting points that you had, that we talked about before recording. So what are your thoughts as far as this? Game journalism and politics being separate, and the video game journalism just as a whole.
So this article, again, there was a lot. I mean, every two sentences had nothing to do with the previous two sentences, but this is the main thing we wanted to take from it. Because it's especially these past 2 to 3 years, it's becoming really kind of on the forefront as, again, gaming journalism and politics. I got into gaming really heavily as a kid via escapism, and a lot of people do.
Yeah.
Like this, like almost any hobby, a big draw to the hobby of your time, attention, passion, and effort. It's purposely. It's escapism. Like, here's the world, especially last year with COVID. Last year with COVID, like we said, gaming arguably kept the majority of the population fucking sane. Because like here's all this shit happening. Fuck it, I just want to shut off my brain and either play a game by myself or play a game with my friends and talk to my friends.
Yeah.
And like I mentioned one time, we were playing Sea of Thieves, and we weren't even really playing. We were just kind of just digitally hanging out, talking about life and the world, and just hanging out. But we just happened to be in a game.
Yeah.
So for me, should politics and game journalism be separate? To a point, yes. But if they're not, it needs to be done right and constructively, unbiasedly. And that's I think both constructively and non-biasedly is where you start seeing a lot of the problems when it is quote unquote force fed.
Yeah. So to go back as far as like, for me, I think there's a world where both can exist. Because some people do treat video games as a glass menagerie, as you mentioned, the escapism, and then some people can be interested in games through politics in general. I think obviously Last of Us is a key prime example. There's a lot of pressing issues in both games, and even like the DLC and stuff as well. Yeah. But that makes up the DNA of that game, and them telling a really intense story, which is totally fine. And then also too, when you have there's some stories that can connect with people where you have, when it comes to like the diversity of the game, you can play, you can change your character to different color, things like that, and and then just various interesting stories. So I think there is a world for both, but when it comes to the specific gaming journalism, as far as politics being separate, I feel like there's some stories that can involve that, and there's some that don't really need to, or to be unbiased, like you mentioned.
Yeah.
Because the thing is that there are certain companies that do lean a certain political spectrum, and they're, treating certain video game developers a certain way or whatever, and it can be a really interesting conversation.
Like Blizzard, for example.
Yeah.
Like Blizzard's censorship of multiple aspects after Tencent got involved.
Yeah.
And the coverage on that was accurate.
When it comes to the game journalism, to me as a whole, like, the spectrum has changed. I think as far as like, because it sucks, because like I remember getting like those old school magazines, you know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like the Xbox magazines, and then just like the PlayStation magazine and all that stuff, and just like reading video game like news and
Game Informer way back in the day, Nintendo Power.
Yeah. So Electronic Gaming Monthly, right?
Yeah.
I think that's one too.
Tips and tricks.
Yeah.
I remember them all. Yeah.
Oh yeah, mad tips and tricks.
So, and so that's why for me it's like, do I believe? For me, it's like that is some of my things. Like, do I believe politics belongs in game journalism? No, because this industry survived decades without it. But again, the world, the culture's changed. So to a point, it's going to happen. But again, that's why I argue it's like, okay, if it's going to happen, one, don't force feed it. It's again like, hey, Cyberpunk's coming out. Let me read the review. Yeah. I don't like cops. I didn't help the cops. What that does not belong in this review. And then again, don't force feed it. Don't be biased, and do it constructively. Yeah, and I don't know if I necessarily, for sure, definitely. I don't know if I necessarily agree as far as like it's never been in it before. I think it's just that was never talked about, and it doesn't necessarily mean that it wasn't important to talk about. However, I think it can be compartmentalized. You know what I mean? When it comes to a video game review the game like as much as you can. Talk about the game. You know what I mean? Like, and I agree with that. Talk about the game, please. Yep. And then when it comes to stories that have some type of connection to politics, like just have it be a different category on the thing, and then people can choose what they want to read. Like, I feel like it can be as simple as that, versus the higher ups of these game journalism companies to dictate everything under everything being politicized in games. I think that is wrong, and I don't think it's needed. So I think there is an importance to it, but I think it needs to be compartmentalized. I agree. The compartmentalization.
Yeah.
The word I can't fucking say.
Compartmentalize, yeah.
Thank you.
It can be separate.
Thank you. So separate I can't even fucking say it. Yeah. So again, if you get a chance, read the article. Took us a bit. If it was more clear to you in your first read, more power to you.
Yeah, definitely. So, knocking that aside.
Yes.
I want to talk about a game here that I think people are starting to finally really take seriously, and really just getting more people are starting to know more about this multiplayer experience. That is Knockout City.
Yeah.
And goddamn, this game is so fun, Arthur. I haven't had this much fun playing a multiplayer title in so friggin' long, dude.
I didn't give this game enough attention when it came out. You got me into it like 2 weeks after it dropped.
Yeah.
But it's made by Villain.
Yeah, Velan.
Like VELAN.
Yeah.
Velan.
Yeah.
And they're published by, surprisingly, EA.
Yeah.
And on Game Pass.
Yes.
That's another reason why I got into it. It's like, Harry, you want to spend money on this? I was like, I have to spend money? I haven't done that forever.
Spending money? What is this, Sony?
So again, this multiplayer game that, again, kind of went under the radar, it's fucking growing on me.
Dude.
It's really fun.
It's so great. It's so good. There's some more content that's going to be rolled out for Knockout City as well. So according to char.com says here, in quote, EA and Velan Studios have dropped a full yearly roadmap for their Dodgeball Dash inspired title, Knockout City. The roadmap details every bit of content that the players can expect from now on through the end of the year. Says starting July 27th, Knockout City Season 2 will go live, featuring a new map, a new special ball, 3 special events, and new season contracts, 5 new playlists, and the introduction of a new daily login bonus and random reward players receive for every day they play. So yeah, it's such a good fucking game, dude. It's so nuts, and it's almost on every friggin' platform as well.
And there's cross platform.
Yes, yes.
So remember, just I'll say on that note, remember, if you were here, Drill and I talked about a game we both play together. He's on PC, I'm on Xbox.
Yeah.
So that means if we're like, hey, we're playing it together, cross-platform.
Exactly. So yeah, shout out to Velan Studios, EA for publishing Knockout City. It's a great fucking game. I know, it got millions of players in a matter of weeks or a week's time.
Yeah, it wasn't a day one true hit. And it was just slowly to everyone, the people that did play day one, getting more and more of their friends, and them getting more and more of their friends to play it.
Yeah.
And in a good way, I'm starting to see more and more low level people in the lobbies, and I'm like, matchmaking, but that just means it's growing. It's oh, they're level 2, they're level 1, I'm level 45. So dude. It's fun. And this is EA, so there are microtransactions, but you can totally ignore them.
Yeah. Which I do. Yeah.
And this would normally be the microtransactions are fucking bleh. That's usually how it goes with me and EA. Because EA does EA.
Yes.
But again, kind of like Squadrons, on how that was how EA did right by that game. Velan and EA fucking nailed it with this one. Yeah.
So shout out to you guys, definitely. And if you haven't played Knockout City, I highly recommend it. It's such a fun title. Just badass. I just wanted to talk about Knockout City. I'm like, can we talk about Knockout City? It's so great.
It's one of those games you would say easy to learn, hard to master.
Yeah.
You can pick up the game really quick, and then all the special little timings of things you pick up as you go. So again, there's that it definitely falls in that category of easy to learn but hard to master.
Unless you're Ivan from the Nerdy Bunch. Jesus Christ.
He picked it up in 2 days, and he's MVP every other match. So okay.
So which is Arthur's roommate, and man, because first it was oh man, this game's fun, and then it was he got a 13 KD ratio.
13 and 0.
13 and 0. Holy freaking! That's ridiculous.
There's a lot of mechanics in the game, it's dodgeball, so there's no balls around you. You as a player can turn it into a ball and have your buddy throw you.
Yeah.
So fun.
Crazy stuff. Yeah, let us know in the comments too if you are watching this on YouTube of any of our topics. You know what your thoughts are, and especially with Knockout City.
And we do, and like, again, I might have to pass like it in 2 or 3 days, but we do stream again. We do stream it. Yeah, we do stream it. We do stream it when we play with Caleb from Ooh Squad of the Nerdy Bunch. And he's really good too. He's very good.
He's very good. He destroyed me, and I was very upset.
We were doing. It was the 4 of us. It was you, me, Caleb, and Ivan. It was all just us 4 friends. Did a private lobby of free for all.
Yeah,
dude, it was like I was watching Moby Dick happen in front of me of like Caleb being your white whale. Let me fucking kill you.
I feel like playing like if we were playing like fighting Darth Maul and like we were just dying. I was like, Darth Maul is destroying us. Yeah. And me as Qui-Gon Jinn, I am not getting it together.
Yeah, there was definitely a few matches where Caleb felt like a fucking mini boss.
I was like, God damn it, bacon.
Yeah, I definitely I realized like I can't do 1v1s, but I always take advantage of a situation. So like when there's like a clusterfuck, I'll be the guy on the outside throwing the ball at people not paying attention. Yeah. That's where I excel.
Yeah.
And that's how I get MVP. Arthur, you go for Arthur got MVP. Yeah, it's really easy to kill people when they're not looking at you.
Seriously.
So it's like you guys keep adding to the clusterfuck. I'll be on the outside picking up the kills.
Yeah, I've been in the knockout dojo, so hopefully I'll be able to square back up with y'all soon here.
Yeah.
So in other news here, this is an interesting thing we talked about the last episode, talking about the kind of like the blue box conspiracy when it comes to Abandoned being Silent Hill. So given that, there's actually been some updates of more tangible news that has nothing to do with Kojima, but I'll talk about that more in a second. So it says here, according to PC Games N, it says here in quote, Konami, the company behind Silent Hill and Bloober Team, the company has made Layers of Fear and The Medium, are now officially working together to produce games from existing and new IPs. After years of rumors around a new entry in the Silent Hill series, this is a big moment of hope for fans, and according to reliable insiders, multiple Silent Hill games are in the works. It says here that this is a part of what's described as a broad effort on Konami's part to let external studios handle its IP after disappointment of games like Metal Gear Survive, which I heard was very disappointing.
Horrible game.
There are reportedly new Castlevania and Metal Gear Solid games in the planning phases as part of this initiative too. We'll have to wait for official confirmation. It seems that Konami is reviving Silent Hills in the most literal way possible by making multiple Silent Hills. End quote. So Arthur, I feel like the main like inconsistency, or not inconsistency, the main issue with a lot of these theories on the internet when it came to like Kojima, like, oh, is he making Silent Hills? Like, people forget that like he doesn't own the rights to Silent Hills. He doesn't own the right to Metal Gear Solid. Like,
he's gone.
Yeah, like he has no attachment to it, so he literally can't make it. So even if he wanted to, again, Konami would say no, because he no longer works for them.
It's like how the guy that made Mega Man left Capcom to make Mighty Number 9.
Right.
And then 2 years later, Capcom actually made a new Mega Man. Because they still have, even though it was his creation, Capcom still had the IP and the rights to it.
Exactly. Now, this is the main question that I wanted to pose to you. I mean, would we play a Silent Hill game that doesn't involve Hideo Kojima?
Normally, I would have said no. But the fact it's from the publisher... the developer that made Medium, I'm willing to give it a try, because if you remember when we did the live stream of the Sony conference last year, up until they showed the title, they showed the trailer, cinematic trailer, up until the last second when they showed the name of the game, I thought it was Silent Hill.
True, yeah,
because there was like the normal world, and then the Demon Foggy world, and then the normal world, and then like all of a sudden hell opening in the world, and I was like, holy fuck, this is Silent Hill.
Yeah.
So I don't know if that was like their like quote unquote invitation to be like, hey Sony, look what we can do. I hear I hear you might need people to step up to make a new Silent Hill game.
I will say that too. Yeah, as far as the Bloober Games, they you're working on the medium. It is a pretty fun game. I played a little bit of it. I didn't get to finish it, but it definitely had Silent Hill vibes, most definitely. And then, to be fair, if PT didn't exist, people would still want Silent Hill because Kojima didn't work on any of the previous, if I'm not mistaken, didn't work on the previous Silent Hill titles. I'm not sure if he necessarily did.
I know he didn't work on. I don't think he worked on the one that came out for the Wii. Because that was like that motion control, Shattered Memories.
Yeah.
I feel like anything that comes from the Nintendo minus Bayonetta is like an asterisk.
and I will say that it is kind of sad that like it's sad that we'll never really see the full potential of what PT could have been with Guillermo del Toro and Hideo Kojima.
A true Kojima Silent Hill. Because you look at Death Stranding. I know people called it the FedEx simulator, but everything else, like the art style, the enemy style, I'm like, again, if you really like copy and paste them into a different game, that would make for a decent Silent Hill world or Silent Hill enemy.
Yeah, very true. Interesting stuff here, most definitely. So
also sponsored by Monster. For those of you who know what I'm talking about, there's this I don't know if there was one segment, I didn't play it, there's one segment or multiple segments where the camera, or like Norman Reedus, who's the main character of the game, before he goes out into the world to deliver stuff, he has a fuck ton of Monster Energy cans all over the place. So like, okay, sponsor.
Yeah, man, crazy stuff. So diving a little deeper into, speaking of acquisitions, I still got it kind of.
There you go.
Speaking of acquisitions, Sony has done a little bit of acquiring when it comes to different studios as well. Technically, I don't think we have a full official thing on this. We have some really credible evidence. But according to Inverse.com, it talks about the potential acquisition of Bluepoint Studios. Continues on to say here that following the announcement that Returnal developer Housemarque has been acquired by Sony, credible evidence suggests that another studio acquisition by PlayStation is in the works. The team is in question is Bluepoint Games, the developer behind the acclaimed Shadow of the Colossus remake, as well as the PS5 launch title of Demon's Souls. When welcoming Housemarque to the PlayStation family, the official PlayStation Japan account accidentally tweeted out an image with Bluepoint Games on it instead of the Returnal developer. The social media gaffe strongly suggests an impending the announcement of Bluepoint's acquisition. Bluepoint has worked closely with Sony for years now, and most of the developer's portfolio consists of PlayStation exclusive remakes. Speculation about the potential deal has already been swirling in recent weeks. While this acquisition would make sense, we'd love it if Bluepoint remained independent, and here's why, which I find interesting. It says here, continuing on, it says here in quote, if Sony were to acquire Bluepoint, presumably all of its games would be exclusive to PlayStation consoles. After all, Sony would make such a large purchase if it planned to release Bluepoint remakes on other platforms. While there are other PlayStation franchises would benefit from the remake treatment, like Ape Escape, Twisted Metal, Sly Cooper, limiting it to only games under Sony's belt is less than ideal for players. I'm going to end quote here because I think that's a great idea.
This is
that's exactly what Sony needs.
I know this is like a rumor / gaffe based on the tweet of whoops, I had their logo. This is good. Sony buying up more publishers or developers. Now, mind you, these aren't like well, these this is on the par with buying something as big as Bethesda, or something I should say as open as Bethesda in terms of lack of exclusivity. These are publishers and developers that have pretty much had Sony exclusives for the past few years. Yeah, like the Dark Souls remaster, Medium, Returnal. Yeah. So again, how Nintendo, grabbed up people that were working on Mario Party, stuff like that. This is a good thing.
Yeah, I think it's a good thing too. I agree because look, Starfield is an exclusive, and I'm not mad at Xbox for doing that because, one, they paid $7.5 billion.
Yes, they fucking did.
and this is it's a video game monopoly, baby. Like this is what it is. And Sony, this is what Sony needs, because first they're trying to close, all the PS3, Vita, PSP in the fucking store, and this is a way for them to really invest into those titles and to make them into remakes with the graphics that they want, that Jim Ryan wants, to have that type of representation for the console. But yeah, I think this is a great idea. Yes, it sucks that if they did this, it would be exclusive to Sony, but Sony needs this. They need this more than almost anything.
And and again, these were games, like the remake of Shadow of the Colossus, and then the spiritual successor, who I always forget because again I didn't play the game. The spiritual successor to Shadow of the Colossus.
The Last Guardian.
Again, thank you. I always forget.
Yeah.
My defense, I forget because I didn't play it. It was exclusive. But again, this is good news for Sony customers.
Yeah.
This is like finally good news for Sony customers.
Yeah.
Because again, for the longest time, it's just been like, There's an AI to make the game easier. Again, all these like, hey, Sony's gonna have this new streaming service. All this new, we're suing. Oh, hey, this customizable PS5 stuff looks awesome. Let's sue the people that made it. This is like the first one gaming related news that we've heard from Sony in a long time, and thankfully it's good news.
Yeah, definitely. And if we were to swing towards the bad news here,
it's Sony.
Yeah. There was a article here released talking about a publisher burning the bridge by throwing Sony under the bus, according to SVG.com. And I will continue here to say, in quote, it said, it doesn't always take a lot of people to make a great video game, but it does take some amount of community and company support to be successful. Today, one developer felt angry enough to share some industry secrets, throwing Sony under the bus in the process. Lane Garner from Neon Doctrine, a indie games publisher responsible for titles like Project Athia and Le Grand Legacy, stated that he was ready to burn bridges in order to discuss the hardships indie developers face. He justified his decision to speak out, saying, in quote, "What is the point of a bridge if I'm not allowed to cross?" End quote. Garner explained that he wouldn't name the company that he had a grudge against, although he did offer, "I will not be defining platform X, but it's the operator of a very successful console that does not have Game Pass." Continues on and says,
"Slick."
Yeah. Continues on and says, Garner made many claims about platform X, which most readers assume to be Sony. He would say that the platform, in quote, gives developers no ability to manage their games. In order to get promotion, you must jump through hoops, beg and plead for any level of promotion, end quote. Garner revealed that developers have no way to change the rules or question how games are evaluated or ranked. No matter the level of personal marketing a publisher puts into its game, the platform itself must independently evaluate the game and decide whether to advertise it. I'm going to end there because that was a really powerful quote there in just that fragment of this article.
Yeah.
Because, I mean, this is like kind of like the downside when it comes to Sony, because as we've discussed before with Jim Ryan, they've been really pushing these first party titles, and like I was mentioning in prior episodes, how indie games, they're really fucking up with this, and how
we called it, or you called it.
Yeah. Oh, thank you. Shout out to me. But yeah, and then a lot of these folks, I would imagine they would maybe get in touch with someone that's connected to Microsoft, because I feel like they are valuing indie games a lot more than Sony is. Oh, yeah. And so it just seems like a lot of, when it comes to these behemoth type of corporations, companies, it's harder when you're an indie, creator in general. It's harder to have that promotion because they're focused on their own goals of promotion. And this is even like in the music industry as well. I won't go deep into that. But when it comes to this, I could understand the frustration, but what are your thoughts on this?
I mean, to a point, we saw an article like this coming because we were saying, in the past, we were saying how how Jim Ryan shut the door on a lot of indie developers, or again made it like he's like his quotes like I can't burn a bridge I'm not allowed to cross, which is you look at indie developers for different platforms, and again. This just confirms what we've been discussing. Yeah. That like how Sony is not pro indie. Yeah. They are not. Yeah. And again you compare that to Xbox, or I should say Microsoft, because the quote unquote console where indie developers thrive is PC. Yeah. I think indie developers have the biggest platform opportunity to grow on PC. Now, of course, Game Pass has increased that for the Xbox. As I've mentioned, I now do minimal research, or at least try to remember the publisher and the developer. If I find this cool small game on a Game Pass, I would have never played otherwise. But even bigger than that, of course, is anybody that plays PC. Whether it's like you find that small, like a Phasmophobia, Valheim, Among Us. All these little games that blew up on PC. Yeah. And so whether you're purchasing these or you're playing similar games like these on the Game Pass, it's a huge opportunity for these developers to grow. Yeah. Because something we've mentioned in the past, a lot of indie games do, is sometimes they may make a small game that will be successful to potentially fund their next like true game. Yeah. An example of that is No Man's Sky. No Man's Sky made, I forget the game it was pretty successful. It was like Xbox arcade game. They made a sequel. It was like Action Steve or something like that. It was like one of those games you just like, oh, this is fun, let me play it. Yeah. And that success from that was able to launch them to their true passion, which is No Man's Sky. Yeah. And to point how much in that example that's their true passion. No Man's Sky, as we discussed, is still getting updates till this day. And so having the opportunity to Microsoft or Steam or PC in general gives, that opportunity to grow or even be presentable is nowhere near it sounds like is almost an impossible opportunity within Sony.
Yeah, and I'll end on this. I'll end it with if in fact Sony turned down Kojima on the next project, and if he signs with Microsoft, boy, are we gonna have a show, because I'm gonna be pissed. I'm going to be so disappointed. I'm like, you guys just turned down like a hero. You know what I mean? Like, regardless if it didn't hit the specific numbers, and I don't care if the whole board of Sony got renewed to remain as board members. Jim Ryan remained. I was like, you guys failed. You guys failed a lot of gamers that would sustain being, consistent customers, and you disappointed them, and you would, and don't be surprised if they switch consoles. So
we mentioned how there was a lot of stories that we tried to cover. Joel just kind of mentioned one, is that Jim Ryan was like Jim Ryan / was it everyone, or was it just Jim Ryan was like up for a vote?
It was it wasn't Jim Ryan. It was like board members. Like, there's a selection of board members that I guess they happen to be renewed to remain for the next year, because technically on the technical side, Sony has done very well financially, and then finally Jim Ryan was like, yeah, we got to get those scalpers. It's like, this is 5 months. Yeah, I do this in July of 2021.
You're only like 9 months too late.
Yeah.
So that was a story where like other shareholders and board members, stuff like that, were voted to stay on again. Yeah, Joe and I were mentioning off recording, and I was saying how like, oh, another year of the same shit. Yeah.
Yeah, man. Jeez.
So I don't know, but again, it just sucks because almost to a point, it's like almost every game developer, you could argue, started as almost indie, like it's just a handful of people. It's a handful of people, whether in a garage or a studio, made something, a successful game. Whether it was the start of Halo, God of War, things like that. Yeah, games are rarely, especially new studios. I should say, not new games. New studios are like rarely, have like an open out the door couple $1 million budget.
Oh yeah.
So to know that hurdle is even more, to know that there's that much more hurdles within Sony just sucks.
Yeah. Yeah, exactly. And speaking on the other side of the fence, there are some interesting comments here that came from the head of Xbox, Phil Spencer. 2 articles here, so very interesting stuff. But the first thing here is a quote from IGN website, or IGN India, and the title of the article is here in quote, "Telling studios they shouldn't sell is short-sighted," Phil Spencer says after Xbox's acquisition spree. So continuing on here, it says here in quote, "Xbox has gone on quite a spending spree, acquiring studios for its Xbox Game Studios family, including teams like Obsidian, Ninja Theory, and ZeniMax Media. This has been the source of rampant discussion about the nature of studio acquisitions in the games industry." But Spencer says that he thinks it is a healthy part of the business. Speaking to Unlocked for its 500th episode. Congrats, Podcast Unlocked. I've been listening to you guys forever. And shout out to Ryan McCaffrey, because he's awesome. And the rest of the crew, too. Destin. Let me say her name's Megan. All of them. So continuing on to this here, speaking to the Unlocked for its 500th episode, Spencer spoke at length about the role of mergers and acquisitions within the games industry, especially since Xbox and Microsoft are big facilitators of them. He said here in quote, "I know sometimes I see dialogue out in the industry about, well, are acquisitions a good thing or a bad thing?" says Spencer before congratulating Sony on the acquisition of Housemarque announced earlier today. Or that day. Continuing on, says here in quote, "One thing I'll put out there is starting a new studio, starting out any small business, frankly, is a very risky proposition. Starting a video game studio, even more so. And if a team actually takes the risk of starting a new company, starting a new studio, building that over years, building the value in that, to say that they shouldn't sell, I think is just short-sighted," he says, in quote. Spencer says that the value of growing a business to become something valuable is any part of why creative teams start new studios in the first place. The immense risk it takes to start a new company is potential reward that comes with it, Spencer says, end quote. "M&A is absolutely a part of that," end quote. And I will just end it off there. I mean, he's making a lot of sense to me.
I mean, last week we covered a company that made one mobile golf game and got bought by EA for $1.4 billion. Was it a Playdemic? Yeah, Playdemic.
Yeah.
Warner Brothers, as we discussed last week, made one mobile golf game called Golf Clash, something like that. And then EA is like, "Hey, here's a check for you for $1.4 billion.
Yeah, man.
And there is truth in that. Now, from the non-Xbox bias side of me, I can say, well, of course Phil Spencer's going to say that because Microsoft's been buying people left and right.
Yeah, they have the cachet and the cash.
But he does speak a lot of truth there that, starting up a new studio, like any new business, is risky. And again, we've seen game studios, crash and burn because this is, the gaming industry, especially a small studio, it's the work is contract based. And if your product, when your contract's up and you've made your game that's not viable, your company's going to go under soon.
Yeah.
Whereas a potential buyout, whether it's a merger or a purchase, can keep you afloat.
Yeah.
Now there are good and bad examples of this. We've seen EA is kind of like Fox, where they'll just buy all these companies. And like, oh, you didn't do amazing. Oh, we're firing all of you. Again, I compare EA to that one episode of like Family Guy when Family Guy came back on the air to Fox, and it's like, man, I can't wait to watch all these shows that definitely still exist. And it was like a 60-second long credit roll of the dozens of shows Fox has canceled over the past few years. EA is on the same point of that, where like they'll buy somebody. It's like It's like, oh, you didn't hit out of the park. You didn't make $1 billion. Oh, we're fucking shutting you down. So again, so buyouts can be risky too.
Yeah.
But again, to say selling your company is bad is a bad decision. Again, is correct. It is a short-sighted statement.
Yeah. I mean, and then at the end of the day, I think it just depends on. how that company is doing it and if they want to sell, So yeah, I don't think it's short-sighted. It's just a case-by-case basis. But I think Phil Spencer makes a lot of points when it comes to his kind of standing on that. So most definitely, I think it's definitely an interesting conversation because this is the wild, wild west of the video game industry. You're just seeing different companies buying other companies because, they want to release this content out here. And then obviously that actually kind of, foreshadows to the future end of this, podcast episode. And I'll explain why. But continuing in, Xbox's corner.
Okay.
Phil Spencer said an interesting statement that I was kind of like, why did he say that? And it was regarding to Halo Infinite. It's not this statement I'm about to say, but you'll see here later in the article.
Yeah.
But it says here for the title of the article, written by Tech Radar, says here in quote, Halo Infinite isn't a make or break title for the franchise, says Phil Spencer. And it says in the sub mention, Halo will be here 10 years from now. So he continues here and says, head of Xbox, Phil Spencer, has expressed confidence in Halo Infinite, but says it's not a make or break title in terms of the future of the Xbox franchise. It says here, when asked about how much is riding on Halo Infinite in terms of the future of the franchise during a recent episode of IGN's Unlocked podcast, see, everyone's making fucking articles about this podcast episode. Spencer responded and quote, I don't think about it that way. Like the future of the franchise, I think Halo will be here for 10 years from now. Is Infinite the linchpin on whether it survives that long? Absolutely not. Continues on this year and quote, the game has such a rabid fan base and such a history of lore that it's just an IP that is going to be with us. We don't take that for granted, but I definitely believe in my core that is true. Continue on, says it's not to say that Spencer is apprehensive about Halo Infinite. In fact, he seems confident in its success and that he was happy with the reception that the game's multiplayer received during E3 2021 showcase. He is clearly reluctant, however, to put too much pressure on the team at 343 Industries, adding, I never want to put a team in a position where they feel, hey, this one's got to land, or who knows, end quote. So
that's like what I was talking about.
Yeah, exactly. It seemed like, he was doing some really good dancing. I feel like to not try to offend, to offend 343 and then also to not freak out the fans. I will say that and it's funny because originally I said, oh, it's not the title of this article that I was concerned with. It actually was. But to say that, to me, when someone says that it's not a make or break title, like it's saying, hey, Halo's going to be here, and if this game sucks, like the series is going to happen. So like I can see how it could be a certain slight. He did clean it up.
Yeah.
And to me, it also shows maybe there's a little worry, just pure worry. Not that the game is in bad shape, right?
Yeah.
But this is it's funny because he's so good with media, with talking to journalists and everything, and he's so good with talking to media, and his publicist is just like fire. But I feel like this is the only thing that he said where I was like, ooh, that's a tightrope.
So yeah, I get what you're saying. How like Halo's gonna be Halo's gonna be here for years to come, even if this game's bad, and that is, what I mean, and that gets so it's like both yay and nay.
Yeah,
yay, Halo's gonna be here for years. Good news. On the nay side being, well, why would you mention if this game is quote unquote possibly bad?
Yeah,
what I mean. He didn't say it, but like that's the other half. That's like the other half tone of the sentence.
Absolutely.
It's like yeah, even if this game isn't great, Halo's still gonna be here.
It's like, wait a minute.
I mean, overall, that's good, but let's kind of rewind it back to that first half. On a side note here, this is like we're now 2 for 2 for IGN articles. They're coherent and they're easy to read and they're understandable. Unlike that fucking mess that was Kotaku article.
This is Tech Radar, but again, your point, very easy to understand.
I just still can't believe it took us so many times to understand what the fuck the article is about, and it was written by their editor in chief. That's her job to make sure articles are coherent and understandable. And her article is like, what the fuck is going on?
Because part of me was just like, I know, but part of it was just like, it was like, you're saying a lot of interesting stuff. You're not clarifying anything, so you're just telling me not to listen to, not to read Kotaku.
Dude, yeah, I don't want to get too much, but seriously, you guys don't. It's like, we read an article, cool, let's talk about that. Read an article, let's talk about that. For like an hour, we're like, we want to talk about it, but how do we talk about it? Well, I understand how to talk about it. We understand what she's saying. I don't know what the fuck she's saying.
And I'm glad I wasn't the only, I'm glad we weren't the only people, because someone was like, is this in code? Like,
yeah, we immediately read through the comments or the replies on the article, and someone's like, so I read this like 3 times now. Is this in code? Because I understand nothing of what her point is. Is there a point? So again, not to smash on that Kotaku article too much, but it just is worth mentioning that the editor in chief, the brand new editor in chief, debuts herself with an incoherent fucking mess of an article. I feel like that's almost more, that's not like, for me, that's more of a takeaway than the topic that we talked about of,
right, should
politics be involved with game journalism? How about understandable articles?
Should she be editor in chief?
Yeah, it's like, does she want this job? It's like, again, like, that's for me, that's the biggest takeaway from the articles. Like, sure she's right for the job? It sounds like, I mean, she could be a writer, but the editor in chief?
Yeah. Shit. Don't even do news. Just stick with optics.
It's like the next article Kotaku writes, editor in chief just found out that F7 is spell check. Oh. It's just like, God, article like,
what's a fragment sentence anyway? Sources?
I just cannot get over how much that article hurt my brain. What about the story? What about the story? I don't know about it. Halo will still be here. Okay.
So speaking of games that we're looking forward to and that are highly anticipated, and your boy Todd Howard is making everybody happy here still. I thought this is a really interesting article, and then, I mean, partially very infuriating. But according to PCGamer.com, with this title of the article, it says here that 3 years after The Elder Scrolls 6 was announced, Todd Howard is thinking about making it. So it says here, let me just go straight to the article here. It says here, in quote, in 2016, before Elder Scrolls 6 was formally announced at E3 2018, Todd Howard confirmed that Bethesda was working on a new Elder Scrolls game because, of course, it was, but warned that it was extremely long ways away. So far off, in fact, that he implied that the technology required to make it happen didn't actually exist. Continuing on, it says here, I have to be careful what I say. It's a very long way off, Howard said at the time. Continuing on, it says here that I could sit here and explain the game to you and you would say, that sounds like you don't even have the technology. How long is that going to take? And so it's something that is going to take a lot of time, but we have in mind for that game, end quote. 5 years down the road and 3 years after the announcement at E3 2018, it appears that the situation may not have changed as much as you might have expected or hoped. In a new interview with The Telegraph, Howard said that Bethesda is still working on the technology that Elder Scrolls 6 will demand. It's good to think that Elder Scrolls 6 is still being in a design phase, end quote, Howard said, but we're checking the tech. Is this going to handle things we want to in that game? Every game will have new suites of technology, so Elder Scrolls 6 will have some additions onto the Creation Engine 2 that game is going to require. I'm just going to read this last thing here. It says that the Creation Engine 2 will first be seen in Bethesda's upcoming sci-fi RPG Starfield. And Howard warned again that Bethesda is all in on the game right now. The developers' projects kind of intertwine, he said, but the vast majority of our development work is on Starfield right now, end quote. What are your thoughts about this?
This, unfortunately, isn't the biggest news to me, because there was a quiet article that didn't get too much news, because it was a rumor, but now we know it was true.
Right.
That it wasn't an interview. It wasn't a formal interview. It was like a conversation that Todd Howard had with somebody.
Yeah.
And that conversation supposedly, which we believe now to be confirmed, is supposedly Bethesda and Todd Howard almost regrets showing and I mentioned this before, but again, at the time it was a rumor, that they supposedly regret showing the announcement of Elder Scrolls 6 at E3.
Yeah.
Because they knew how far off and how not worked on at all the game is. But there was so much understandable and deserved backlash after the failure of Fallout 76. They had to do something.
Yeah.
And they knew like Starfield wasn't quite enough. Revealing Starfield just wasn't quite enough to get people back on the side of Bethesda, be interested in Bethesda. They had to do something to get Bethesda back in people's good name again.
Yeah.
And so they showed that Elder Scrolls was going to exist. At the time, there was nothing on it had been worked on it other than that trailer.
Yeah. What's interesting to me, I mean, obviously, according to this, is that we're going to be seeing Starfield first versus Elder Scrolls 6. I find that to be interesting.
Yeah. I mean, I don't know, because I'm still on the fence with Bethesda. I'm still on the fence with Bethesda. I forget, did Starfield have an exact release date?
I think it's coming out next year, if I'm not mistaken.
But was it an exact date or just 2022?
Just 2022.
Okay. If and when that game does get a release date, I'm not going to pre-order it because I'm still
apprehensive
from what happened with Fallout 76.
Yeah.
The upside for what I'm hearing with this is both Starfield and Elder Scrolls 6, whenever that will be.
Right.
Finally.
New engine.
Thank you. Because they've been using the same engine since arguably nearly PS2.
Yeah. Yeah.
A late PS2, PS3 transition engine on a fucking Xbox One.
Yeah. Seriously.
What the fuck? Again, for me, I'm glad the Starfield that has a release date of next year.
Mm-hmm.
I'm happy that's gonna have a new engine, and the fact that Elder Scrolls can take some time, I'm not entirely happy with. But again, something we've discussed that's come up a lot more in topics following E3 and stuff like that of COVID. I know this isn't exactly COVID related, but because of that, I've become now used to fucking Stockholm syndrome to a point delays or games coming out way from now.
Yeah.
And whether it was so knowing what we know now, was it a mistake for Bethesda to announce Elder Scrolls 6 years ago? I think no, because again, if their goal was to get people to trust Bethesda again, to like Bethesda, to be excited for Bethesda, it was the right call. Even knowing what we know now that the release date is fucking nowhere in sight.
Yeah. And then the good thing too is that Phil Spencer, he was like, "Oh yeah, we're working on Elder Scrolls 6 during that showcase." So he's got his binoculars, looking in through that office. So
and that's something we're gonna talk about next is just to a point, just knowing a game will exist is a good. It can quell the angry fans.
Yeah.
To a point. Just is this game going to fucking exist? Yes. When? We'll get there, but it's going to exist.
Very true.
To a point can quell the anger, which we'll be discussing.
Exactly. No, you're right. You're absolutely right. And then especially with someone confirming it that's legitimate, not just some
rumor,
just some rumors and journalists that's I think a Twitter thing said this,
what's the phrase, was it an industry insider says blank.
Yeah, exactly.
Industry insiders have been talking about fucking Kojima and Silent Hill for 20 fucking years. Sorry, that's my go-to. Again, I know Kojima's your guy. I'm not saying it's bad. I'm just saying, for me, Kojima's more synonymous with rumors than product at this point. To a point, no control was out.
Yeah, exactly. So the last topic here on the show, saving the most disappointing for last. So, according to highsnobiety.com here, it says here for the title of the article, I hate to break it to you, but GTA 6 isn't coming until 2025. It says here, continuing the article, it says, in quote, if you've been waiting for Grand Theft Auto 6, be prepared to wait a lot longer. Fans have been waiting for the gaming franchise to make its return for 8 years, according to a reputable gaming source, that the wait won't be over until 2025. GameSpot reports. The theory was further supported by a statement by the game's publisher Take-Two during a recent shareholder event. The renowned leaker Tom Henderson, who is primarily known for his most accurate leaks on Battlefield and Call of Duty, released a new video this week sharing a bunch of alleged GTA 6 details. According to Henderson, there are a few reasons for the game's delay. First, apparently Rockstar Games has been focusing heavily on employee well-being and is aiming to avoid gaming's toxic crunch culture. The developer reportedly doesn't want to announce the game until it's confident that it will hit release date without any delays, but it wants to do it in making employees work extremely long hours to meet the deadline. That's bullshit, probably.
Yeah, I was almost gonna cut you off. I'm like, fuck you. That's a lie. We want employee well-being. No, fuck you. You want to make as much money off of GTA 5. Fuck you.
And continuing on here, it says, then Henderson claims that GTA 6 will only release on a newer PS5 and Xbox Series XS consoles and PC, of course. But given how coveted the PS5 and Xbox Series X are, Rockstar Games is apparently waiting until there is a big enough market for these consoles, aka until the majority of players can actually get their hands on them. And the third reason for this delay is frustratingly simple. GTA 5 is still extremely popular. Rockstar would likely not want to release GTA 6 while its predecessor is still so successful. While the reasons make sense, it's even more disappointing to know that there are legitimate factors behind its delay. So while you wait, check out this video on the website. Of course, we're not going to do that. End quote. Oh boy. I'm going to start with you, Arthur, and then I'll continue.
I'm going to go with my good old reliable, fuck you. Go fuck yourself. Those excuses are lies and bullshit. I like how the article said, and thirdly, it's because they're focusing on GTA 5. No, that's the fucking first excuse. An example of that is the fact that last year, it's the Sony conference, the first thing to get announced is that GTA 5, 1, will exist on PlayStation 5, and 2, that it's free. So that's why that's the focus, not employee crunch. No, fuck you. Like, no, it's you're focusing on GTA. You're focusing on GTA 5 because you like the money you're making from the shark cards,
milking the cash cow.
Yeah, and again that's visible because you know how much focus you put on that at the fucking Sony conference. So employee crunch being number one is bullshit.
Yeah.
And so first of all, let's start with this thing being a rumor. Because this is from a guy that has a supposedly credible source from a shareholder event. Now here's the thing. How earlier I said I'm kind of okay waiting for Elder Scrolls 6. The reason, if this is true, why I'm upset. Let's say this is true. Another reason why I'm upset of having to wait so long for GTA 6 versus Elder Scrolls 6 is because this game would have come out a lot sooner if they wouldn't have milked GTA 5 as long as they had.
Yeah.
That's why I'm upset about this.
Yeah.
This game could come out way sooner if they weren't just fucking milking just shark cards and having bullshit excuses of why it's delayed.
And you know the third reason doesn't make sense to me either, because they could release GTA 6 on new consoles and still have GTA 5 online for the older consoles. You know what I mean? They could still synonymously make money, in parallel. So I feel like that's not really a reason. I feel like the only reason that makes sense to me is the fact that I hope that GTA 6 is specifically made for next gen or current gen consoles, PS5, Xbox Series XS, and PC, and waiting for those consoles to be replenished and to be in stores where people can actually say, I want to get a PS5 today, and they can actually do it. So that to me makes sense. However, that has nothing to do with the development of the game.
Exactly.
So
and it's like, again, for context, the game's been out for 8 years now, and they're just now shutting down the Xbox 360 servers.
Yeah.
What the fuck? Again, that's how much time spent has been on this game.
Yeah.
And so to say, oh, it's going to be delayed because there's not enough Xbox Series X's. Yeah, fuck you, dude.
Yeah, because they could be like, well, the game's done. We're just waiting on the right time to release it.
It's like, here's another reason why that's a bullshit excuse. So you're going to tell me a shortage that no one saw coming due to a worldwide pandemic that no one saw coming, that's your fucking excuse of why this game's delayed. So either it's bullshit or you knew COVID was going to happen. Yeah. That's all the only options you have.
Yeah.
It's like, oh, well, yeah, there's not enough things. Like, so yeah, again, it's like, how does the development of a game be delayed because of a shortage of a microchip processor due to a worldwide pandemic? I dare you to try to connect those dots.
Yeah, yeah. It's like, that doesn't make a lot of sense to me.
Yeah, I mean, it's like, that's... Yeah.
And dude, I don't think they're gonna fuck up GTA 6, but imagine if we wait this long and the game sucks. Imagine that. People burning like their consoles on YouTube.
Dude, like, no, it'll be more of those videos of like
burning Red Dead or something.
No, people going to GameStop, finding out they can't return it, and they're like knocking over all the stamps. Because ignore everything that the article said. The reasons being delayed is because they're focusing on GTA 5 so much.
Yeah.
Again, especially like Jarrell said, how does the shortage of a new console affect the development of a game?
Yeah.
And the shortage is due to, again, like a pandemic. It's like, so again, either you're lying or you knew COVID was going to happen. That's the only way to justify that statement.
Yeah. It's nasty all around.
So that's why it's like, hey, Arthur, Elder Scrolls 6 won't be out for a while. And it's like, fine. Or like, hey, GTA 6 won't come out till 2025. Like, oh fuck, just should have worked on it sooner. And I just realized they contradict themselves, because if they say that one of their excuses was why it's being delayed supposedly why it's being delayed is because of the lack of next gen consoles. Well, then why is GTA 5 coming out? Why is GTA 5 being re-released for the PS5 for free?
Exactly. Yeah, that's a good point.
Again, so those are multiple differences of why I'm like content with the Elder Scrolls 6 thing versus this. It's like lying and bullshitting, treating us like we're stupid to our face. Yeah. Versus, hey, it's just gonna take time. Like, I'm okay with that. Like, if they're saying, hey, like again, like Todd's like, hey, again, like the conversation you had, like again, the conversation I had, like, I don't know if we should show that trailer, or I don't know if we should announce it. We're like, no, we're not even like barely working on the game. We're focusing on Starfield. So it's gonna be some time till Elder Scrolls 6 happens. Oh yeah, because there's a shortage of consoles, so we can't make GTA 6 yet. But on that note, hey Sony customers, GTA 5 coming out for free for PS5. It's like, what do you mean?
Yeah, man. Yeah, and I guess we're just gonna have to wait and see, like we usually do, to see what becomes of it. And that is the end of the news we have here for the Gamers for Life podcast. Any lasting thoughts before we close out? Play Knockout City. That's one.
Play Knockout City. If you want to, if you guys are good at puzzles or riddles, read that Kotaku article. And hearing this rumor, I know again it's supposedly a rumor, the shareholder event, just reminds me of fucking Take-Two's waste of their fucking time E3 event.
Oh my gosh.
There again, for those of you that didn't watch the episode a while back, or E3 itself, Take-Two, which owns Rockstar, not just Rock. It wasn't like a Rockstar conference. It was Take-Two, which owns 2K, Rockstar,
conglomerate,
and other major AAA developers.
Yeah,
their entire thing was just a Zoom call about diversity.
Yeah.
GTA 6 coming 2025. It's I've mentioned this before. I'll say it again. Rockstar is like, I know this is a rumor, but again, Rockstar is on the brink of like, they're already currently pissing off players. Like again, thankfully, more and more people of the Grand Theft Auto community is voicing themselves. Yeah. But again, they're on the brink of just really fucking pissing people off. Yeah. And like again, not to a point boycott, but potentially affect the success or sales of the game.
That's the thing, man. If GTA 6 sucks, uproar.
Dude,
complete uproar.
And here's the thing. That'll be a phrase opposite from what Phil Spencer said with Halo. Is if GTA 6 isn't successful, how will that affect the franchise?
And I think we're going to end it with there. I like that. All right, folks. Well, thank you so much for tuning in here for the Gamers for Life podcast each and every Saturday, discussing all things games. I'm one of your hosts, Jarrell, and with me is my co-host, Arthur Thomas.
That's me.
All right. Thank you, guys. We will see you next week.